Hello, and welcome to Community Voices, where we talk to Humboldt County's movers and shakers. Today's guest, watercolor artist and plein air painter, Paul Rickard. And now here's your host, Paul Bressoud.
Hello and welcome to Access Humboldt's Community Voices. My name is Paul Bressoud. I'm the host, and today we'll be speaking with Paul Rickard, a local artist and many things actually. Before we start, I always want to say, always good to meet another Paul. And we also have in common that we are retired teachers, so always good to meet someone that was in the profession. So welcome to the show.
Well, thanks, Paul, for having me.
You did a show, didn't you? Kind of a painting show, a Bob Ross type format?
Yeah, that's right. I did a few years back, yeah.
And I watched some of that. So you have become an accomplished artist in using the medium of watercolors. How did that come about from a teaching career and all the things you did in the early life to now the artist? Tell us about that.
Well, I was always drawn to visual arts as I was growing up, and I was one of those kids that always doodled in school, but I basically didn't have any formal training, and really I got in trouble for doing art more than anything in school, and never had an art class in high school, but I did some traveling, and when I was about 21, after I finished up at Cal, I traveled around the world, and each day basically I was sketched somewhere, and that's really where I learned to draw. And just periodically over the time that I was an educator over the next 30 years and raising a family, I would be doing art. So it was always a part of my feeling of what it was that who I am and what I was drawn to.
So who encouraged you as you went along? I mean, you said you had no formal training, but eventually you had to connect with people and go ahead and talk art or share art or go see more art. How did that all happen?
Well, I had a little bit of training in New Zealand. I had an aunt that was a World War II bride that ended up there, and I had about 6 weeks of training with an artist named Tony Geddes, who taught me just the basics of value and color. And then after that, it was basically just meeting artists on the landscape. I got to know Jim McVicker, who of course is really well known to us in Humboldt County, Stock Schluter, Andrew Daniel, and then through basically my association with them and Curtis Otto, if you know him, I started to get out every day, and basically since I retired from a full-time position teaching, I've painted every day for the last 9 years. And when I say every day, I mean every day, not including the times that my kids have gotten married and those special life events. But it's just a part of what I do. And anyway, to get back to your question, I think this idea of being a part of a community of people and getting to know artists is just really important to the way you evolve in your craft.
Now, you mentioned other artists. Is there a vibrant artist community here in Humboldt County?
Oh, very much so. And I think Curtis Otto in the area of plein air painting and outdoor landscaping is kind of a patriarch. He died a few years ago, but anyway, some of his proteges, of course, Jim McVicker, George Ben Hook, Stock Schluter, of course, that's continued on. And I think what's unique about Humboldt compared to other areas in the state, there's a long storied history of artists practicing and painting in Carmel, Southern California, but up here on the North Coast, we've worked against the odds. We've been isolated, and really not until the age of the internet have artists and their work really, started to share. So, and also I would say since about 1980, the whole plein air movement, painting outside from life, has really expanded, so that now there's paint outs around the country, lots of opportunities for artists to meet. And
well, that I'm fascinated. Sometimes you say things and my ears perk up. A paint out. Tell me what a paint out is.
well, a paint out is a name for artists being invited to gather together at a certain location, and sometimes they're people are invited, and sometimes they're open. Anyone can sign up. We have a Humboldt open paint out that's open to everyone, that starts September 27th and goes through October 2nd, and it's through the Redwood Art Association. So at these paint outs, people gather and they paint outside, and then they hang their work, and then a judge comes to judge and awards best of show, first, second, and third, and so forth.
Let's take a step back. Where will this location for the paint out be?
Well, it's the Redwood Art Association in Old Town Eureka, and I think it's 407 F Street, and the headquarters will be there. It's across from the Morris Graves.
Right, but is everybody going to the same location to paint the same scene?
No. People will sign up or have signed up, and then they'll get their canvases or their paper stamped, so that we can be sure that they painted during the paint out. And then it's basically up to them to paint anywhere in Humboldt County.
Oh, great. So it's not necessarily people getting together and painting at the same time.
No. It could be, though. Sometimes artists show up at the same location. Yesterday, I just want to share with you. This is a painting that I did at Baker Beach.
Wow.
I don't know if you can see that, but
I can't.
And then
this is our first painting ever on the show, so that's fantastic.
And this is the second one that I did.
And you did both of those yesterday?
Yeah, actually, I did 3 paintings, and then this is the third one. I don't know if you can see that.
Fantastic. How much time, you said you paint every day except for special events. How much time a day do you think you're putting into painting?
Well, I get up and I look at the tide information, and then there's webcams. For instance, Trinidad Pier has one, and then I kind of think about what it is that I want to do, and the constraints as far as weather. Fog is fine to paint with, and it's great for atmospheric watercolor painting, but wind can be a real drawback. Right. So after looking at the weather, then I decide where to go. And lately, for example, the fog has been really heavy on the coast until about 11 o'clock. So I've been waiting till more about 10 o'clock to get out. And so yesterday I made the hike down to Baker Beach off Scenic Drive in Trinidad.
Oh, fantastic. Now, do you usually do the ocean and water scenes, or are there other scenes that you like to do?
Well, I'm drawn to, it's skill building, and here I'll just share a couple of paintings. I like to do architecture.
Yeah, I've seen, that's fantastic.
Eagle House, the whole Eureka. Let's see. I'll just show one more. Wow. So I work on mainly I'd say marine paintings, which I love the atmosphere and the beauty of our coast and south of here, Mendocino and Big Sur and Carmel. But I also like to, as I'm going through the adventure, to learn architecture and put people in the landscape. So I'm forever trying to challenge myself to better my my skills in drawing, and drawing is an important part of plein air painting, but it's not everything. But it is very important.
Let's talk about a challenge. I was told you were invited to go to Bhutan. And if that's the case, there's no marine painting there, or very different architecture. What was that about?
Well, to start off with, I have to thank my friend Stock Schluter, who's I would say he'd be on the Mount Rushmore of plein air painters in Humboldt County. But anyway, he had an opportunity to paint in Bhutan from a benefactor, and also the Kingdom of Bhutan. And so there was room for two painters. And so Stock invited me to come with him. And we spent about 30 days in Bhutan. We had a driver, we had an interpreter, and a guide. And basically, we were just set free to go wherever we wanted, and so we'd leave our location for that day, and with everybody, and the driver and so on, we would drive, and then Stock and I would look at the scenery. So we went over a pretty good area of Bhutan, saw some of the highest mountains in the world. We got to pack into some of the monasteries. We had ponies that were packed up with our equipment, and so we got to see monkeys and all kinds of really interesting bird life. We got to meet the people, and then we'd set up, and people were, of course, very curious about what we're doing. And the purpose of it really was an exchange between California plein air painters, the West, and the East, where there's a long, storied history of paintings and art honoring the Buddha. And
now, Bhutan, did you have to wear the traditional clothing when you were there?
No, we were able to just go as we were, but we tried to be very sensitive to the culture there.
And that's the other question. I've heard that Bhutan is very protective of its culture. And so it's interesting to me that they would bring painters in from the West and want to open up to Western styles. That must have been a conscious decision on their part.
Well, that's a good question, Paul, because over a long period of time, Bhutan has always remained independent. They managed to do so during the time of the British Raj, and China and Pakistan and all of these countries nearby in Nepal, and they've done so by being fiercely independent, but also being surrounded by really tall mountains, and
right. They're hard to get to.
It's just very steep with very deep canyons. And so they protected that, the sense that they want to, retain their identity. And going forward, they've come up with this coined phrase that has really now become famous. It's called gross national happiness, and that's their version of the GNP.
Hang on a second. Say that again.
Gross national happiness.
I think I would like some of that.
Yeah.
Some of what's happened to us in the last few years has been very fatiguing. I think I'm ready for gross national happiness.
I'm with you right there. And so when they legislate, they have a parliament system, and they have a king, of course, but everything that they do, they go through to see whether it really affects the happiness of the people. Wow. And if you look at their actual GNP, they're very low. But my impression was that the quality of life there is really good, and that although there's not a lot of material wealth in the country, that people seem to be happy and overall healthy, I would say.
What was it like for you to paint a completely different type of landscape? I mean, there you're in the Himalayas. It's so beautiful here, but I mean, you're there, and there's the beauty of that location. What was it like? Did it transfer? Did the love of painting a scene work just as well in the Himalayas as it does on the West Coast?
Well, very much so. I would say that the process of plein air painting really lends itself to any environment. And while it's true that the palette changes and everything, that the challenges of working on composition and then thinking about value, which is basically light and dark tones, and then color is the same. And every artist develops a process by which they're able to render hopefully what they see and what they're inspired by. But also I have to add that some of the things that we saw were just staggeringly beautiful. And what I mean by that, ornate and century-old buildings, monasteries, and then scenes of rural people carrying enormous amounts of weights on their heads, and in traditional clothing a lot of times in the rural areas. It varied from tall mountains to just really unusual fauna and sometimes flora, yak, for instance. And there's a type of crane there that is as tall as a cow that was almost extinct a few years ago, that the kingdom has done a lot to preserve. So we were able to see those cranes and paint them.
Wow.
And just to share, we have a show. I say we again. I need to mention Stock Schluter and everything that I say about Bhutan, because he's the reason why I went. We have a show scheduled for College of the Redwoods. Now with COVID and everything, we're not sure, but we think it'll be sometime next year. So when that comes out, there'll be publicity.
And those paintings will be on display. Now, you mentioned earlier in the interview that you went around the world with a sketchbook. Would you like to do it again with your watercolors?
Well, I'm not sure that I would want to do that. I think
in an upgrade.
North America, that there's still places that I haven't got a chance to paint. I haven't really painted the Rockies. I haven't even been to some of the national parks. So I think probably at this point that I'd like to stay closer. I have a granddaughter too, and so she's really influencing what I might do. But I was in the Peace Corps too, so I've done a bit of traveling, and I don't know about overseas travel too much anymore.
Now you're teaching your granddaughter to paint?
Yes, yeah, we have what's called the Little Buddha board where she paints in water, and then we do drawing together. She's really interested in everything around her, and with our family gatherings, we're often out as a family, and at some point usually I sit back and I like to do a painting of the family, doing wherever we are.
So that's all part of the painting day. The special events that you said earlier, like weddings or anniversaries or those things, you take that day off. But even on an outing, you go ahead and paint the family, huh?
Oh yeah. I always bring my paintings and kind of look at the site. That's one of the challenges for a painter is to get to a site and look around at the opportunities of the day, and also kind of bear in mind what it is that you're kind of working on at that point, and then pick a painting. So the family gathering is perfect because it gives you an opportunity to put figures in the landscape and that kind of thing.
Now here's an inquiring mind question. How many paintings have you created?
Well, I was trying to think back on it. And I would say a conservative estimate in the last 9 years is that I basically, if I was going to average it out, I've done over the last 9 years maybe a painting and a half or something like that. I'd say that would be conservative a day. So if you multiply that out over a period of the 9 years, I'd say about
9 times 1.5 times 365.
Yeah, that's right. So 4.5, 5,000 paintings. I think that's probably a conservative estimate. So I have a lot of work, which I have at my home, and also my 208 C Street Gallery in Old Town.
And then there must be a barn full, and there must be all kinds of things.
Well, the nice thing about watercolors is that if you're not framing them, they just tend to stack up, because they're done on paper. And so the storage, but I'm definitely challenged with storage.
Wow. Is that you've done other art forms before, right? You've been a woodworker, you've been a musician, wrote songs, whatnot. Is it primarily now just the watercolors?
Well, I do some wood sculpture. I have a daughter, Hazel, and also another daughter, Heather, and we like to do driftwood sculptures and that kind of thing. So around my home, we live on Pickle Hill, and we have some driftwood sculptures. So I have my hand in that as well.
Wow.
And I do a little woodwork, and I've always enjoyed working with my hands. So I built my own houses and continue to do a little, bit of carpentry when I have to.
Unbelievable. Well, I just can't, we can talk for a long time. It's amazing to me, doing the research for this interview, the things that you do. It's very inspiring to know that there are people out there creating. It's a good story. I think you're a promoter of gross national happiness. Congratulations on that. And we hope that we're able to see those Bhutan pictures next year, and that it'd be great if you could do another painting show. I think that was I viewed some of that. That seemed fantastic. So I thank you for being on today. That's about all the time we have. I want to thank my guest, Paul Rickard, for being here and joining us. And we'll see you next time on Community Voices.
Thanks so much. It's been wonderful to be with you all.
Yeah, thank you very much.
This has been Community Voices with your host, Paul Bressoud. Thank you for joining us. If you represent a nonprofit organization and are interested in being a guest on Community Voices, send an email to info@accesshumboldt.net or call 476-1798. Access Humboldt. Local voices through community media.